Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. A few weeks ago, we showed how to lay down several types of organic mulch. Today, we will be planting vegetables in that mulch. Also, we'll be talking about how to grow organically. That's just ahead on the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Peter Richards. Peter is our local gardener.
Hey.
Good to see you, Peter.
Yeah, good to see you too.
All right, so last time we planted in sheet mulch.
Right.
This time we're going to plant in organic mulch.
Right. These are organic mulches, so it's, you're still going to plant it
Okay.
the same way. We're going to plant, we have a row of flowers, a row that has a tomato plant and 2 peppers, and a row that has beans and watermelons.
Got it.
But with this, it's a different process. So we're going to start out, we're going to plant our tomato plant first.
All right.
So we're going to plant it right here. And this is a technique I learned from Joe Ellen.
Okay, yeah.
You know, but
which does work.
Yep. But we're just going to move the mulch out of the way,
Okay.
dig a hole.
All right. So do we need to look for the irrigation line?
Here our irrigation
it?
line's right here.
Okay, good.
It with the sheet mulch, it was an issue because we were using a knife or a flame to cut through the mulch, and so we didn't want to cut our irrigation line.
Yeah.
This is a little less of a big deal.
Okay,
Like this
got
isn't
it.
going to break the irrigation line.
No.
So anyway, and when I scoot it apart, I'm going to be able to see it anyway.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and dig our hole right here and grab a tomato plant.
Right.
So yep, these are determinate plants. They're better bush. We picked determinate because we have a smaller space to grow in here.
Okay.
So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to plant this a little deeper than the pot because all the little hairs on the side of a tomato, those all turn into roots if they're below the soil. So I'm going to do that now. Yep, let's go ahead and push the mulch up around it. Now, if you notice, the tomato plant looks a little buried. It'll grow through it.
Yeah, it will.
It's fine. And then also later on the season, we'll, once the tomato plant's, foot tall or something, that we can put more mulch up against it. It's not going to be that big of a deal.
No.
But one of the great things about all of these mulches is that they're going to help keep the soil from splashing up on the tomato plant when it rains. So hopefully they're really going to cut down on our fungus problems on tomato plants, which is a huge problem around
It's a
here.
huge problem. Blight,
Yep.
Being one of the major diseases of tomatoes.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see.
Yep. So let's go down here and we're going to go ahead and plant our peppers. Okay. So same thing, we'll plant one there and we'll plant one here. We're gonna plant these a little closer together because they're not gonna grow as big. So we'll just, let's go ahead and put this one in. Now these we wanna plant at the same level that they were in the pot.
Got it.
So we'll just do that, and then the same thing, we can just kind of push the mulch up around it.
Yeah.
We're gonna have, these are smaller, so we're gonna have to leave a little bigger of a hole.
That's a little bit.
We'll just put it in. Okay. We now need to do our plants that are seeds.
Got it.
So these are going to be a little bit different because we're going to have to create, we have to bury them in a trench.
Okay.
They're seeds. So we can't put the mulch over it. We're going to have to leave the mulch open until they start growing, and then we can push the mulch up.
Okay, got it.
So we're going to put our watermelons here against the, let's do a little bit better job with the mulch there. We're going to do our watermelons against the center here. Reason being that if we do it against the center, then they can run into our pathways. So they have a little bit more space to run. And also I'm wearing gloves. I noticed this because I have to do some fine dexterity work here. But when you're dealing with these organic mulches, that's going to get pretty pokey.
Yes, it is.
And where you think, oh, well, it's just pine needles. Yeah, but when you handle it for a while, it's going to tear your hands up a little bit.
Sure will.
But at the same time, it tears your hands up, but it also does the same to a lot of insects, especially slugs and snails. So this bed, I will just tell you right now, this bed will be slug and snail free because any slug and snail that tries to come in here is going to get torn up by the little spines on the...
They will not want to come across this.
No. Now we're leaving this open.
We're gonna leave it open, right?
So that so they can germinate and we can see what's going on.
Okay.
Once they come up, then we'll go ahead and push the mulch up around them.
Got it.
Now the beans here.
You're still doing 2 rows, right?
Yep, we're going to do 2 rows of beans, and I'm going to kind of be a little lazy here, and I'm going to go ahead and just clear the whole area as opposed to trying to clear two narrow rows in this.
Okay.
So once again, though, once they sprout, we'll pull the mulch back up.
Got it,
So
yeah.
we'll drag a line here.
I'll give you those back.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind covering those up for me.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, and we got the irrigation going right down the middle of it. Keep them watered. Okay, so we're done here in this area, and we're going to go ahead and move on to the shredded mulch.
Right.
This is going to be a lot the same as that. We're just going to pull the mulch apart. We're going to plant through in the holes and cover it up as best we can with the seeds we can't.
Got it.
So
Got it.
let's go ahead and do that.
And the thing about the shredded, bark mulch, a lot of homeowners use this kind of mulch. Yeah, so definitely want to see what's going to happen here.
Let's move on here to the cardboard. So this is definitely a different kind of
It's
mulch.
going to be different.
Yep. So we've got some dirt on it that is going to hold it down when the wind blows. We also have some cinder blocks. So 2 different
Hold it in
ways that
place.
you can hold it down.
Okay.
With this, we're going to go ahead, we're going to put our tomato over there. We're going to put our 2 peppers over here.
Okay.
But I'm going to have to cut through it. Now, in the middle here, we have 2 layers
Okay.
of cardboard because they overlap a little bit. But this is going to be
using the cross.
I'm still using the cross. I'm probably going to do a little more of a
cut it up? Okay.
diamond-y
I
sort,
got you.
but diamond, circle, something along those lines. And I got through one of them,
It's good. It's a good cut. Ah.
and there's the other. Okay, so yeah, we had our irrigation line there.
Yeah.
Hope I didn't hit it.
Yeah. Hope you didn't.
The bigger the hole you cut, the more chance there is for weeds. So you want to cut small holes. That just means it's harder to work through the hole, but it means it's harder for the weeds to grow through the hole too.
That's what we want.
We picked this up at a construction site, and it had been in a big rainstorm.
Oh,
So it was already, you can already see it starting to separate a little bit, but
It's pre-soaked.
yeah, pre-soaked. But it'll hold together well enough.
Yeah.
So there's another method that's similar to this, which is to put down newspaper. And if you think about it, newspaper is just cardboard that's already fallen apart. So
I hadn't thought about it like that, but you're right.
yeah, so
you're right.
the cardboard's going to fall apart, but it'll do just fine. Now, something I am noticing here is that we notice we're on our hands and knees right here.
Yeah.
And it's more comfortable to work that way. When we were on the pine straw and the shredded wood, you can't go down on your knees.
Yeah. This is our tomato.
Tomato here, yep. And there we go.
And the tomato's gonna be just fine.
Yeah, tomato will be good. Just like we did with the plastic mulch, we're just going to cut a long slit. Now with this one, though, we're gonna have to open it up a little bit.
You don't feel the irrigation line, do you?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, you're good.
I don't know if it's here somewhere.
Yeah, we're good.
4 and 5.
Those camouflage so well.
Yeah, they do. With the beans here, I could do 2 slits, kind of like watermelon size, or I could do 1 slit that's just double wide. I think I'm going to go for the 1 slit.
Okay.
Since these are going to be 4 inches apart,
Yeah.
we're going to put one right on this edge and one right on the other edge.
Okay. And as you're doing that, Peter, as you can see, you already have a little
Yep, we got little weeds.
weed seedlings.
Yep. There. We're doing all these different mulches. We also are doing what in science we call a control group.
Yeah. Gotta do
So
control.
we're doing a section that doesn't have mulch. And so if you could grab the plants over there for us. So this area doesn't have mulch.
Okay.
We will be keeping track of how much time we spend weeding each of these plots. That's one of the things that we're going to track this year.
I think that's gonna be neat.
And so my guess is that this is going to take the most weeding time,
It's gonna take the most weeding.
but who knows? Let's find
We'll
out.
see.
There's our tomato. And then we'll put a bell pepper right here. Yep, so now we have our 6 test beds planted.
Yes.
So we will see which mulch, I don't want to say does best, which mulches do well. Because I think we're going to see a couple of different good performers.
I think we will, but it's also going to be neat to see how long it takes to weed,
Yes,
these plots. So
Yeah.
I think that's going to be good. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
thanks.
All right.
This year we're doing an experiment here in the Family Plot Garden. We're trying 5 different kinds of mulch to see which one works best. So we have 2 sheet mulches, which are plastic. One is just a sheet of plastic and the other one is woven landscape fabric. And then we also have 3 different organic mulches that we're trying. We have pine straw, we have ground wood, ground up, to your typical mulch, and then we also have sheets of cardboard. So during the year, we are going to go in and look and see how things are going with each of the areas of mulch and compare them to a control where we don't have any mulch at all. So we'll be looking at moisture levels, how much harvest we get, what the soil's like underneath, how well the plants grow, all that sort of stuff. So expect that coming up this year.
All right, Tanya, let's talk a little bit about organic gardening.
Okay.
A lot of people are interested in gardening organically. So where do you want to start with that?
Well, there can be a lot of confusion when you go to buy your seed. There's a lot of different labels, and sometimes we've heard the terms, but we're not clear on exactly what they mean. You've got your organic seed, you've got heirloom seed, you've got hybrid seed, you've got treated seed. So I thought I'd start with kind of telling you a little bit about each one.
Okay, that'll be fine.
So organic seed they're produced from mother plants that were grown under organic conditions.
Okay.
That means the plant the seeds came from were grown without using synthetic fungicides or insecticides or anything like that.
Okay.
And then you've got your heirloom seeds. Now, an heirloom seed simply comes from a plant that's been open pollinated or self-pollinated. Like, for instance, tomato plants, they're self-pollinated. They pollinate themselves. So an heirloom seed just simply means if you grow that heirloom plant, you can save those seeds and plant them next year, and you'll get the same type of plant that you started with. However, just because it's heirloom does not mean it's organic.
Right.
Some people think an heirloom seed is an organic seed, but not necessarily.
Okay.
Because you can still grow an heirloom plant using synthetic fertilizers, fungicides, insecticides.
Okay.
And then you've got your treated and untreated seeds. Now, a treated seed has been coated with either a fungicide or an insecticide or both. And that prevents things like damping off or fungal diseases. Sometimes if you plant your seed and it's a little too moist or the soil temperature is not warm enough, you'll get fungal problems and they'll die. So treated seeds have usually a fungicide to keep them growing for you until they get established. But that is not considered organic. So, and then you have your hybrid seeds. Now, a hybrid seed is simply from a parent plant that was crossed with a similar variety to produce superior fruit, or a trait that we wanted, like bigger fruit or disease resistance or something like that.
Okay.
So they can still be organic though. Just because something is hybrid does not mean that it's not organic. You can grow a hybrid plant under organic conditions. And as far as a GMO in your vegetable garden, you don't have to worry about that. A hybrid seed is not the same thing as a GMO, and they are not readily available for sale to the average homeowner.
Right.
So we're just strictly talking about what do all the terms on the label mean.
Okay.
Now, and keep in mind, unless you are growing your produce for sale at a grocery store or a farmer's market, how you define organic is totally up to you. So even if you wanted to grow a hybrid tomato plant and then grow it under organic conditions in your garden, you can't sell that as an organic vegetable.
Right.
But you're totally, you can do it. It's whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever level you feel comfortable with.
Okay. Good descriptions on those, okay? So what about using the transplants from the store? Because of course now everybody's, going to your local big box stores to get all these transplants. So how do you go about doing that?
Well, you can get transplants from your local store, and I think now there may even be some in trade available that were grown organically. Okay. We're starting to see a little bit more of that type of thing because there is so much interest in growing organically. But once again, how organic you want to be is up to you. What you want to make sure of if you're going to grow organically is that you don't introduce weeds or insects or diseases into your home garden. So if you're going to buy a transplant from the store, look in the little peat pot and make sure you get out all of any kind of little weeds that might be growing in there. Look on the underside of the leaves and in the leaf axils where the leaves connect to the stem and make sure there's no insects hiding in there. Look for leaf spots that can be a sign of disease. And then you may, if it's possible, some of them are in those little peat pots now and hard to take out, but if you can look to see if it's got good white healthy roots,
That's right.
that would be good too. That'll give you a head start on your organic garden.
Right, yeah, I usually tell folks, do slide plants out of pots if you can. Okay, and if you get in any trouble, then you can just tell them Tanya said you can do so.
Yeah.
You just be fine. You'll be just fine. All right, so what about soil prep, okay? 'Cause
Well,
that's where it's gonna all start, right? It's gonna
yes.
start with the soil. So how do we go about prepping the soil for organic gardens?
Well, just like any other garden, you want to do a soil test.
Sure.
And
sure you do.
University of Tennessee Extension can help you with that. You can go to Chris's office and get a soil
right.
test kit, and they'll explain to you exactly how to do it there at the office before you leave. It's pretty inexpensive, and in a couple of weeks, you'll get a report that tells you how many pounds of nitrogen that you'll need per, I think it's 100 square feet or something like that.
It is.
So then you get to choose a source of nitrogen and other nutrients for your garden. Any kind of an organic fertilizer is fine. You can use compost that you've made or purchased. You can use, there's a variety of different things you can use. Bone meal, grass clippings, leaves. You can use pine needles, sawdust. You can use all sorts of different organic materials, and you can either buy some of these things prepackaged at the store or make your own. And the only thing about making your own is sometimes there's a little uncertainty about how much nitrogen am I actually putting on my soil. Whereas if you buy a bag, it'll have the numbers on the bag. Like, for instance, if you buy a bag of bone meal, it might say 611-0. And those three numbers on the bag refer to nitrogen, phosphate, and potash, N, P, and K. So the first number tells you what percentage of nitrogen is in that bag.
Okay.
So let's say the first number is a 3. That means that in 100 pounds, you've got 3 pounds of nitrogen. So if your soil test result says that you need 3 pounds of nitrogen per 100 square feet, then you put on 100 pounds, and then you know you've got 3 pounds of nitrogen in there.
Right.
There's a really good publication that I found online from Utah State, and you can just Google selecting and using organic fertilizers.
Okay.
And it's from Utah State Extension, so we know that it's research-based. And they have the average NP and K amounts for a whole bunch of organic materials. It even has leaves, it has manures, it's got compost, and they'll give you on average. For instance, compost, they say, has between 1 and 3% nitrogen, 1 and 2% P, and 1 and 2% of K. And it tells you how available it is, if it's moderate, slow, or rapid.
Wow, how about that?
And then it'll also have a note if you need to look out for things like weed seed.
Okay.
So that's a really good resource that I found online that's research-based.
Okay. And we actually have that link on our website.
Great.
Right, because
Good.
it is good information, and we've used it before.
Good.
So it's good stuff. All right, so how do we get our plants off on the right foot? So what are some other tips that we can do
Okay,
to ensure that we get those plants off on the right start?
Yeah, we already talked about don't introduce your pests.
Right.
And you know what I would do if I were growing organically, especially if you're new to it? Plant extras.
Plant extras.
Yes.
Mr. D likes that one.
Yes.
Plant extras.
Because sometimes the organic methods that we use, some of our insects are harder to control. Some of
Yes,
our,
they are.
our fungal problems are harder
Yes.
to control, and expect some losses. Expect the bugs to eat some of it. So I would say plant enough so that if you do lose a couple plants here and there, you still have something out there for yourself.
Right, because we think they're tasty, so do the bugs.
Yes, that's
they
right.
think they're tasty too.
That's right. So plant extras. You want to wait until the danger of frost has passed. I know we've had really warm winter this year, and I'm already looking and seeing tomato plants and transplants at the garden center. But in our area, and it's different depending on where you live, it's April 15th for your plant date. That's just for the Memphis, Fayette County area. But
Okay.
if you live in other parts, call your local extension agent and ask when the frost date is.
Okay. Tanya, great information. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you much.
It's been a really wet spring, and in apple trees we're seeing a lot of fire blight this year as a result. This is some fire blight on an apple tree. The leaves are wilted and there is a hook on the end. It's a bacterial infection that happens when you have warm, humid conditions, often after rain. The temperature needs to be between 75 and 82 degrees and the humidity greater than 60%. Now, fire blight can be spread by insects, it can be spread by wind to damage tissue. If you see it, you should prune it out. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So we have a couple of branches here with fire blight. So we have this branch right here, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it a few inches, probably about 8 inches below where I see the wilting, which is going to be right about here. I can just cut it right at that branch. And let's take a look. It looks clean. Now, I'm going to sterilize my pruners, and you want to do this after every single cut when you're dealing with fire blight. So I have here, I have a 10% bleach solution. I have this other branch right here that I'm going to cut right here. So now sterilize again. Always remember to do that. To be safe, I'm not real comfortable with that being fire blight free. Fire blight moves up the branch. If it gets to the trunk of the tree is dead. So in order to absolutely make sure that this fire blight is stopped, I'm actually going to come all the way back here. I'm going to take this branch off. Now, with fire blight, you don't want to put that in the compost pile. You want to either burn it or you want to throw it away so it goes away with the trash. You don't want to keep it around. If you see repeated occurrences of fire blight every year, there are a couple of chemicals that you can put on your tree in late winter to early spring. You want to do it to stop the fire blight in the blossoms. So that would be copper-based fungicide, streptomycin, or Bacillus subtilis can be sprayed on the tree to help reduce that. Now, something interesting to note is that this is a Liberty apple tree, which is very resistant to fire blight, but it had fire blight anyway. So even if you have resistance, it doesn't mean you're fire blight proof in this case. It just means that you're less likely to get it.
All right, here's our Q&A segment. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
These are some great questions. Here's our first via email. We have these on our fig tree, and research says they are Florida leaf-footed bug. Can we safely control them on our fig tree? And this is Mark from Wimberley, Texas. He says he does not want to use pesticides and wants to make sure the fruits are still edible, which I can appreciate.
Yes.
Right? So what do you think about that, Celeste?
So leaf-footed bugs in general, I don't feel like are going to be a huge pest issue for that particular plant, especially if if you see them feeding primarily on the stems, trunks, leaves. The main issue would be if they are causing damage to the fruit.
Right.
So as the
Agreed.
fruit begins to ripen and those insects are in that environment, yes, they would potentially be feeding on those fruits and causing like some damaging spots. So if that is the case and they don't want to use any type of pesticides, I'd say, hand removal. So they're just going to need to be on top of scouting. They know that this pest is an issue with this particular plant. They've seen it in the past. So just be vigilant, and then when they see the population of that insect growing, do hand removal, maybe shake them off into a bucket of soapy water would be one method. Another method is to just kind of bolster your garden to be a thriving habitat for other predaceous insects that could help control those pest type populations. So lacewings are always a great option. Just having lots of flowers, composite type flowers that support those types of small insects could really go a long way into increasing those populations.
Well, and also you can find their eggs and destroy their eggs.
You sure can.
So if you scout and you look at the underside of leaves or on stems, it's a line of golden brown eggs.
Pretty
if
distinct.
you see it, just squish it. Or you can even pick the leaf off.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that question. We appreciate that, Mark. Here's our next via email. How do you lower the pH in a lawn? And this is Debbie from Ocala, Florida. She says she tested her soil and it has a pH of 7, which is not bad. Most of your turf grass is like a pH between 6 and 7. So what do you think about that, Peter?
Yeah. So yeah, you're on the basic end of what you want.
Okay.
So I might consider not doing anything.
Oh, okay.
But if you do want to, there's a couple of things that you can use. Elemental sulfur, you can probably find it at co-op stores or farm supply stores. It is the cheapest. that you can get. They may be willing to sell you a small amount. You may have to buy a 50-pound bag, but at the same time, it's not going to break the bank.
Right.
If you don't have that, there are some other chemicals that you can use that are available. One is aluminum sulfate, and then there's iron sulfate as well. Those are more expensive. And I know the last time I bought some aluminum sulfate, it was probably about $10 a pound, which is, when you think you're trying to do your entire lawn, that's going to be a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so I would probably call around and try and find that elemental sulfur where you can. Get your soil tested by a soil test lab, and they will have recommendations as to how much to put down if necessary. But it's not going to be a whole bunch, because you don't really have to move your pH that far.
Here's another means to lowering your pH, but it's a slow process. Adding organic matter, to the soil will help. It's natural. It's something that happens over time, right? So that's something else I would consider, because you can actually do that too, possibly with the elemental sulfur. It takes time, but you have a healthy soil. It's all about soil health, at the end of the day, right? So we appreciate that question, Miss Debbie. Thank you much. Gave you a lot of options here. All right. So Celeste, Peter, it's fun as always.
Thanks.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
All right. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is questions@familyplotgarden.com. And the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee, 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. If you want to learn more about the pros and cons of different kinds of mulch, head on over to familyplotgarden.com. While you're there, you can ask us your gardening questions. They may even make it on the show. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.